Hi, it's Colleen Schmidt from Divination Counseling Service. And I do have to say that I might not have remembered this particular chart to do a video on if it wouldn't be for my crippled status. So in light of the fact that I can't do anything else, I've been doing a lot of thinking about astrology. So today's chart that I want to take a peek at is a predictive chart, not as strong as the ingress chart, which we would normally do in January, and I never miss that one. This one, however, is the solstice chart, and it's important in a different way. It's not as long a predictive chart. In other words, it doesn't last 9 months like the ingress chart, but it is in many ways the highest point of this, or the lowest point of the sun, however you want to look at it, but we have the most sun. And it is a time when we might put the seeds out for new beginnings, and it is somewhat predictive. So I thought, you know what? I'm laid up, why not? So I wanted to start with the Uranian because it looked rather interesting, and of course I will always end with the asteroids, but I wanted to point this out to you. You know, we've got all of this stuff happening still somewhat close to the Aries points, but June 20th chart still continues to bring up the Vesta Apollon, here we go, equals politics or palace or enabling, and it's almost like there's future businesses. Now it's interesting because this is the Washington DC chart, although this would be where it is for everyone. This is a world point chart, okay? But it makes me question the whole world in terms of what is it that politically they are enabling that's foreign? What foreign agenda? Okay? You know, you're looking at Vesta Apollon. You are totally looking at work, distance, goals, distance, but businesses, Apollon, the expansion that happens at a distance. Okay, so just bear that in mind. The chart itself, you know, when I look on the sun, there's a lot of course, Neptune is close by. There's a Neptune, midheaven, Mars thing going on, which we can look at. And basically, this is like just working with the unknown, that lack of clarity. Maybe we're dealing with unsure attitudes. Maybe someone's a swindler or a rogue. Okay, so you want to look at that in its totality, okay? Yes, it's easy to see in politics. It always is. You know, one of the things I've learned as an astrologer many decades ago is that if you're looking at world events, then it's a lot easier to read the chart. What we want to do is take these world event charts and look at them on the most personal level. That's our objective. So with that said, there is, besides the enabling that's going on, that includes partnerships, and I'll get to that, especially with the, again, I'm looking at this in symmetrical astrology, and one of the things we look at is the openings, okay? And the openings for where this hits to the partner is the same, okay? So just, where am I getting in my information? I just want to point that out. What I do also want to point out is you notice the dots, okay? So we have a sesquitrad with the Mercury, so there's news, communications highlighted. With the sun, okay? So days on which there are news, but it's also Venus. Days on which there's news about social connections, our money is linked with, money's a big factor. So, you know, we're looking at things in this chart that, you know, kind of tell a story here. If I look at the midheaven, it equals Uranus. There's going to be a lot of shakeup going on over the next 3 months in Washington. And that shakeup is going to relate to our connections. Now, this would apply to even people like me who live on the East Coast. So that's the stuff you want to keep in your mind. I do want to point out that the charts do not look really good for our government by the end of August. A lot of things come out. There is a Chronos on it, Chronos, of course, really just snuggling up there with Hades. And so, there have been some bad decisions. There have been some stuff that went on, and we go again with what are the equal openings here. And so so there's a couple of things that you might want to go in there and literally count out, okay? I question the destiny of us questioning our connections that are business related at a distance, okay? I wanted to do that for you, and I wanted to kind of point out some of the more obvious things. Okay, now, I want you to also look at this closeness to Mars. Okay, so when I go to the Mars, it does pull up that midheaven Edemetus, which, by the way, is enduring. This is about enduring. This is about being, I want to say firm, standing on firm ground, being persevering, being steadfast, okay? And so our actions are to be steadfast, but if you take that Mars, it's referring to how all of us are kind of persevering, not necessarily through our work, although it could be for some of us. It's literally persevering through inactivity. Boy, can I relate to that. Now, this is an Aries point chart. I have an Aries point chart. And unfortunately, I am persevering in inactivity. Thus, you have an extra video here to watch as a result. I also want to point out that there can be some things that can happen that would bring opportunities that could also come through things like authority figures. Okay, just saying. But I go back, I like this lineup, okay. So you go back and it pulls in everything, you see. And so what I want to do is I want to go back, but one of the things we didn't look at, and which is probably the most important to the United States, is Mr. Uranus, okay? And basically, we're going to be literally startled, okay? At some point in the next 3 months, I'm going to predict this on, I'm just going to say it. I think we're going to have that happen more than once. I think we're going to be terrified out of our wits about different things that we find out or that we'll be dealing with. So I just kind of wanted to bring this up. It's a really interesting chart. I also want to say that we feel really oppressed. The people are really oppressed by these decisions, these connections, and I predict it's only showing us just more protest and more of the public speaking out. So, with that said, let me switch to the other chart. We can start doing asteroids and, of course, house points. So here we are looking at our chart for the ingress, or actually, I'm sorry, the solstice. We want to call it what it is. It is an ingress chart, by the way, but it's the solstice. The ingress would be the one we do in the winter. So when I look through this chart, I really do want to point this out. I don't really have a whole lot on the houses, okay? I want to point out about the sun and the moon, and we'll talk about that in a second. But when I go through the chart, I really don't see where we have, unlike a lot of times when I do charts, now here we have a midpoint between Westphalia and the other side of Juno, Hera. And that's like a midpoint, okay? So the actual expression comes in there, but it also could be, we could be expressing concern about a partner's health or a significant other or a business partner. That's really, honestly, I mean, house is, yeah, but still out. So there's really nothing as I go through this that stands out to me in this chart until you get to the top of the chart. And then in retrograde, you have Memoria at 3 degrees of Scorpio. Okay, so it is the cusp of the 9th house, like you're heading toward the 10th house, but it's really from that aspect of the 9th house. It happens to be falling just inside of the 9th house, and it makes me wonder if memory is going to show up also in the Aries point, so I'll get to it, but I do feel as though perhaps there's something that we are remembering things, but when it's in the 9th house, realize that it's, you know, either higher thoughts, higher education, but it also could be political. It could also be that people are looking back on memories of things and how things are changing already, or how they've changed, and not always in a good way. So I just, you know, that's probably all I would place on it. Otherwise, I have to admit that there really isn't, you could look at 2203, where you have Niobe, which is our pride. And you think about the fact that pride goeth before the fall. It is retrograde. I do believe, because it's the cusp of the 11th house, it would be with associates. And so these would be like people in our social groups, but maybe even in our work associations or work groups. So with that said, we're going to go right straight to the dial, where I'm going to finish this up. Shouldn't be a long video. It is, after all, the ingress of the solstice chart, rather, which is the sun going into the Aries point. Okay, it happens, well, the equinox, it happens again, and then, so we have 4 times a year, but the equinoxes, I don't do a lot of charts on them, occasionally, like this, when I'm crippled maybe, or, you know, tied to the house. But I do feel like the ingresses, which are the spring and the fall, and then your solstice. Now, your solstice is still considered a predictive chart. I think they are predictive too, but you're not talking about a lot of time, unlike the ingress chart, which is the winter chart, and that one does seem to last a long time. So, at least according to a lot of astrologers, and I tend to agree with them. So, looking at this chart, okay, I can tell you just right off the Aries point where the sun is. Okay, the sun is at the Aries point. So is Uranus and the moon. And what is that telling us? Well, I wanted to talk about the moon anyway, okay? Maybe I should go back just a moment so you can see it. It's not going to be really visible, though, if I remember correctly. Okay, see, here is the moon. Okay, so the moon is just inside of the 2nd house. So money is definitely going to be on our minds as a people. And the 29 degrees, which actually I could have brought up with the 0 degrees of Gemini, that 29 degree of Uranus, because Uranus is getting ready to move into, it's getting ready to ingress. That happens to be on the IC of this particular chart, and I didn't talk about it. I should have missed it, skipped it. But Uranus is talking about the changes. Now, the changes could be happening within our personal groups, our close connections. It could be that our friends are acting unpredictable at this time. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that can be connected to that Uranus. So, you know, things could happen in the home. Please be careful, depending on where your Mars is. Uranus is nasty when it comes to accidents. I speak from experience here. So just look at that, because it is on that angle. It also could be people moving. Relocations, moving. I know some people talking about that right now. So, you know, actually, I know several people talking about that. So that's another issue that could come up, especially among our friends and the people that are closest to us. Okay, so getting back to this moon. The moon and the sun are literally 30 degrees apart, okay, which puts them in the same golden triangle. It means that there's going to be an easier flow of energy between them. In this particular case, the sun at 0 degrees of Cancer, while the moon is actually before that. And it's almost as though you get this impression that emotionally we're relying on what's happening in the course of our days. Okay, we're emotionally clinging. Well, it's a really terrible time. I mean, we're talking about a lot of disappointments, a lot of people feeling depressed, health issues, relationship issues, job issues. I mean, this is not a good time. And instead of like dwelling, oh, it's not a good time, as I've been kind of told in my headspace with regards to my own issue, that maybe it's a time for transformation. Maybe it's a time when we can learn and grow through whatever it is that we're experiencing. And there goes that 9th house cusp with the memories, okay? And so there's a lot for us to look at. So I did miss a lot in that, didn't I? Just came back with the moon and picked up 2 more things. But those asteroids, the asteroid of, well, the planet Uranus is also then in a, actually on the 4th house. What I'm really looking at is anything that's happening. So really, there isn't anything countering each other. So at the midheaven, we have partners. And so one of the things that can be really unpredictable is partnerships, and maybe even new partnerships or remaking of partnerships, particularly work partnerships, which I thought was pretty interesting that Vesta is there, and so is Apollon. So that's our work business, and that falls in the house of change. How interesting, right? And then remember, then you have Nobi. Even Diana is a little bit there at 21:30, 20 minutes away at 21:50, and then 22:03. So we're really seeking out, hunting out, and there's a hunter prey quality, by the way, to that Diana. But then you got that pride that goes before the fall. So look out for people who are being hunted. Okay, which is a really interesting concept. But, you know, being hunted could be anything from at work, people looking for you, to the fact that leaders in the world, I won't mention any names, are doing some not so great things. And I think that there are other sources or resources that are going to come after them. Here we go with that hunter prey, okay? It also could mean to a child's animal. Just throwing that out there because of the 2 asteroids. Niobe is a child, Diana is an animal. So as I move on, just kind of doing some trivia here, to the dial, I'm only going to be looking at the Aries point, okay, which is about there, 2 minutes off. So we've got the cross going. Please be aware that Mercury is in there. And then this is called Selena, and Selena's running with Atlantis, okay, and Ornamenta. That's what those 2 asteroids are right here. And just let me just say that Selena's about talents we didn't know we had. Remember, this time period can be really difficult, but it is and does present opportunities for growth in our consciousness, and here, growth in our talents and skills. But it is also talking about betrayals that might be surface, you know, where Ornamenta is just like an ornamental thing, but Atlantis is betrayal. But it also kind of means that, and it's also enabling. We're enabling a betrayal. And through it, though, new things will be discovered. There's a Sun-Venus on it. Sun-Venus is good, don't get me wrong, but Sun-Venus is also selfishness, especially when it's running with Moon Hades. Okay, so it's like selfishness against people that are lesser. Okay, so we want to look at all of that. It's all in this axis point. But let me look at some stuff I can add. I did talk about Venus being there. Venus is a big part of the Aries point right now, and I explained that that's our social life, it's finances, it's sweets in the case of some people, so be very careful. There was a Westfall thing in there, which is how. Realize that, you know, I did talk about this in the next chart, which you probably will not be seeing until Monday or Tuesday when it gets out. I'm going to put this one out today. I got to tell you that I think that you got to look out for yourself. And the self-destructive tendencies will be rather strong. So if you're somebody that says, oh my God, things are so terrible, I need another drink, or if you're like me, things are so terrible, I could eat more ice cream, be very careful, because those can be self-destructive as well. One of the things that's really important with this particular sun, running with the sun only about 20 minutes away, is truth. And one of the things I do truly believe, mostly because of astrology, is that a lot of truth is going to come out between the 20th of June and, say, September. So that would be July, August, September, 3 months. And I don't really put this chart going much further than that, but I think that's going to be a really, really revealing time. And realize that it may be true politically, but I am also referring to people who work in businesses or companies where things could be going on, troubles with the jobs, relationships, people that are maybe not doing well in relationships. I'm not going to go into too much there, but I'll say that there's a lot of things that could be going on. I did talk about Mercury Ornamenta. We were just talking about it. It's over here, and it really is. Here's where we go. Now, I'm just going to use this as an example, but please bear this in mind that in the bigger picture, it also reverts to the world. Here in the United States, we cannot believe our legacy media. We do not. I've said this for decades. I know people have heard me say this, especially some of you out there have heard me say this. We do not live in a free country. I know it says it's a free country. I know it does. But we haven't had a free press for some time. Our press was all bought out. And now we're getting things that are ornamental, or as they say, done for click. It's clickbait. Okay? So please bear that in mind, and be sure wherever you're getting your resources that they're good resources, because by listening to things that are ornamental, you are enabling, okay? And Poseidon is down here. So what are you're enabling this, we're making nice in the form of propaganda, disinformation. So, they're trying to sell you something. And I think we're used to media that's informative, but that's not true. We haven't had that for a long time, if ever, really. And I would say to you to be very alert to that, okay? Because we are living in an information age. So there's no reason why we can't go look up our own stories. I moved down here, and I'm going to talk about something that's very constructed. It's designed to upset us, to, in some cases, humiliate us, to be a scapegoat. Okay, with so much going on politically, that's almost scary. Because whatever that design is, it really is upsetting. Okay, and it's designed to do that. Just like they're designed to throw stuff at us so that we get discombobulated and confused. When you listen to the next chart, you'll see a lot of chaos and EOS and things that are about distribution of energy, scattering it. Okay? This is a design, guys, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's not more designs that will be made known in the next few months. We are living in an information age, and things will come out. Takes a while, but it gets out. Also, look for people who act like they're so compassionate. They're doing it for compassion. Don't be tempted. Sounds like a lot of design to me. Don't be tempted, okay? Just don't be tempted. And there's a lot of that going on right now. There's a lot. It's, it's a Dahlias, which is your design. Something is designed to upset us, Libitina, and Libitina running with Delbruck, which is so that we would lose. It's to push us to the point so that we could lose. I can tell you right now, a lot of things are getting worse. Health issues are getting worse. There's something about health. Here we go again. I talked about this, which you'll be hearing also in the next thing that comes out on Monday. There is a lot here about mental decline or and it's interesting, that's actually one of the areas that I love to study. It's talking about our mental health, okay, and how our mental health is getting worse through what we're listening to, Hermes, the messages that we are receiving. But also, if you have people in your family that have mental decline, please stay alert. Okay? Because all of those things are featured here. Okay, so Bernanke's interesting, but Bernanke is about, well, it can be haircuts. It's retrograde, but it's really about burning bodies. We get a lot of war issues things, so you might hear about bodies that are burning up or burning up of bodies. We have to be careful because one of the things that we're being set up for is, and I'm going to double check this, but it's suggestibility. Let me just go double check and see. Well, I'm really glad I looked. Turns out it means criminal personality. So maybe what we all need to do is look out for things that, or people that tend to have criminal personalities, okay? Especially when you have Atlantis in there, you have Poseidon in there. You have Hebe in there, you know, enabling. As long as we fall for these, how do I say this, for these propagandas, whether it's somebody who's trying to gaslight us or if it's something we're watching on television, we have to realize we're enabling. Every time we watch these shows, we're enabling. We're giving money to somebody. So we have to be really careful and more aware of what we're doing, even on a more subconscious level, okay? Because there are criminal personalities that we have to deal with. It also refers to a lot of money, Albertus Magnus. Again, it will be seen in the chart that I'm going to be putting out on Monday, but Albertus Magnus is hanging out in the Aries point, right around Poseidon, and it does make us wonder, well, it's squaring Poseidon, how much can we believe, really, okay? I mean, seriously, when it comes to money, there's that Venus concept again. When it comes to money, how much can we believe? And how much are we being gaslit? And that might be your partner. That might be a business partner. That might be a friend. Please be aware. So, the last thing was Hebe. And I do want to point out that Hebe is the enabler. It's the people who say, oh, I just want to really help. Well, sometimes helping is wonderful, and it's the compassionate thing to do, but in this particular case, make sure that whoever it is that you are enabling deserves to be enabled. So look out what's happening for the next 3 months, and again, keep your wits about you. Know that there are criminal personalities in the environment. With that said, as always, I want to say until we meet again. Oh, and thank you for watching the video. Thank you to all of the people for the comments. I love it. We're a small group, but I feel that it's a very supportive group. With that said, until we meet again, I wish you only happy reading.